close friends of the appellant applicant, or even clergy who might have been involved with the family, to provide evidence. So I can give you one example that I had recently, which was a young Vietnamese, middle-aged, let's say, Vietnamese man who was on ODSP for an anxiety disorder. And he married a woman in Vietnam, and the application was refused. Then the father, so I called the father, because one thing that the young man was living with his parents in a small town in Ontario. And one thing that occurred to me was, well, how do the parents feel about this? Here he has this anxiety disorder, and he's marrying a woman halfway around the world. Maybe a parent's going to have something to say about that. And so the father gave very good evidence as to why he saw nothing wrong with this, and why he thought, in fact, it was a positive thing for his son in overcoming his anxiety disorder and maybe being able to reintegrate into the workforce, get off ODSP, and get his life going again. And that evidence was persuasive to the member ultimately in allowing the appeal. So that would be an example perhaps where a family member can add something to what's going on. They can also add with respect to what they know about the relationship and why they believe it's a genuine relationship. And the more family members or friends that come to testify or provide evidence through written statements, hopefully the more evidence you have to substantiate that you have a genuine relationship. But again, as with the Refugee Protection Division, preparation of the witnesses is extremely important. So, just as I said with this preparation, it's imperative to meet with the appellant and applicant. The applicant is over the phone several times before the hearing. You should meet with them together, so to speak, so that they can hear what each other is saying. And the meetings have to cover the developments, the details of the development of the relationship, because that's one of the things that the federal court has said that you're going to look at in a genuineness of relationship. How did this relationship begin? Does it sort of have a genuine feel to it? Now, not all relationships are developed over a long period of time. Many cultures have arranged marriages. So again, if it is an arranged marriage, how did the arrangement come about? Important that that arrangement is within the cultural context of how arranged marriages are made within each cultures or religions, because different cultures or religions may have different ways about how they go about arranging relationships. It's also important because I'm sure visa posts will look at marriages and they'll say, well, a marriage in this country would have these ceremonies, A, B, and C. But you only had C, so we think that this isn't real because you would have had A and B if it was real. So these are the kinds of things that you need to go over. And so here, cultural sensitivity is important in a refugee claim as well. And sensitivity, there are lots of other sensitivities in refugee claims. Cultural sensitivities are important, very important in the marriage context, about how marriages evolve and unfold in a particular culture. And it may be important to the member understanding, thinking, well, this is a real marriage in this culture, this is what I would expect to see. And so those are the kinds of things that you need to be cognizant of. Any previous relationship, and why those relationships ended is important, and the applicant should presumably know something about that. How the relationship has been maintained since marriage, what they know about each other, because again, if people are genuinely married, they're going to have details about each other's lives. I think the reality is, which I've made in my submissions a number of times, the Immigration Appeal Division, it is kind of an artificial test, because you're going in there, even in an interview at a visa post, or when you get to a hearing in an Immigration Appeal Division, people are asking personal details about your life, about your spouse. And people might just not know every single detail about their spouse. That's just the reality. So it is a little artificial. But it's important that you establish that they know the things that they should know. Like, presumably if you're sitting in Tehran and you've got a spouse sitting here in Toronto, you're going to know what that person's doing every day when they're going to work. If you don't know, then I think that's an issue. You're going to know perhaps if the parents are alive and where they live. Do they live with the parents? Do the parents live somewhere else? Do they have brothers and sisters? All these kinds of things. What their education was. Where did they go to university? Well, maybe not exactly the year they went to university, but perhaps where they went to university. And what the future plans are if the appeal is allowed and if the appeal is not allowed. Those are two questions that should always be asked in an Immigration Appeal Division sponsorship appeal. Because again, The idea is if you're genuinely married to somebody and you're planning to spend the rest of your life with this person in Canada, you will have had some discussion about what it is that this person is going to be doing when they get to Canada. And, you know, what are your plans? Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to go to school? What, you know, what's your spouse going to do when they get here? And they have to have, you know, some idea of what they're going to do. If the appeal is not allowed, that often also goes to the genuineness of the relationship, because, you know, if somebody says, well, look, I'm not, you know, that's it, the marriage is going to be over if the appeal is not allowed, that might go to the fact that perhaps the marriage is not genuine. Often, clients will tell you that, well, I'll go back, because often the clients will be from the same country, not always, but that's often the case. Well, I'm just going to go back and I'll live there with my spouse, and maybe we'll try again at some point later on down the road. So, those are important questions to ask, but they need to know all this information. And you need to address the issues raised by the visa post and the refusal. So if the applicant, the person overseas, didn't know something about the spouse, that's something that you as counsel should address right up front, not wait for the minister's counsel to do it. I think one of the keys, and this is, again, where you have a little bit of a difference between, the Refugee Protection Division and the Immigration Appeal Division, is that we've got an adversarial process here. Refugee Protection Division, most of the time, is not adversarial. Sometimes the minister is involved in the Refugee Protection Division. Issues of credibility, integrity, or perhaps exclusion, which I didn't get into. But at the Immigration Appeal Division, it's always adversarial. And so it's important where there are difficult issues that have arisen in the visa post refusal, that you prepare the applicant and the appellant to answer those questions, that you address those issues first, not let the minister go in and address those issues. I think that's extremely important in the context of the Immigration Appeal Division work. So try to get over those difficult issues yourself before going in, you know, before allowing the minister to do it. So gathering evidence. So gathering supporting evidence. So documentary evidence, again, I think it's like basically any legal proceeding, you need to have evidence to back up what you're saying, not just your own words. And I think that's in the immigration context as well, and the immigration context is no different. You need evidence to back up what's been said. So in a sponsorship appeal, as probably many of you know, communication records such as phone records. Phone records, frankly, are becoming sort of not really there anymore, because most people don't communicate just by regular telephone, because there are so many other ways to communicate at no cost. And that's the way they do it. Text messages, printouts of any other kinds of communication, so WhatsApp, however people are communicating these days. Often, I really don't know a lot of those ways, but people do that. And as I said, phone records I'm finding are sort of not, people really don't have them anymore, because people are communicating so much in other ways. Skype conversations, all these kinds of things should be documented, and you should tell the client right up front when they come into the appeal that they should expect to try to keep these kinds of records, because as you know, it's going to be a year or more before they're going to get to a hearing or an ADR. ADRs seem to become a little bit earlier, less than a year these days, but it's important to have that communication. Proof of travel by the appellant to visit the applicant, passport stamps, air tickets, boarding passes, joint bank accounts. It's not, you're going to see that probably more in the inland spousal sponsorship, where both of the spouses are in Canada. Overseas, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. I wouldn't say that's a make or break. I think most members aren't necessarily going to expect to see that. But documents showing a beneficiary, such as life insurance and RSP. So somebody has life insurance, presumably their spouse is going to be the beneficiary. If they started an RSP, they may have also made their spouse a beneficiary. These are all things that go towards the genuineness of a relationship. Photographs of the marriage ceremony and reception. And as I said, you have to look at each culture, what kind of ceremonies are going to be expected in a particular culture, and get photographs of each of those kinds of ceremonies. Engagement ceremony, again, some cultures will have, and religions will have an elaborate engagement ceremony, and the member might expect to see that if they know about that. And I think it's also important to have photos of the appellant and applicant together with family and friends, and with family especially, because I think, again, that goes to the genuineness of the relationship. Sometimes I see cases where the appellant has gone back to visit the applicant, and there's just pictures of them together here, there, and everywhere, but there's no pictures with the applicant's family, or if the appellant's family is living in the country of origin, no pictures with the appellant's family. And I go, why not? Because that would seem to be something that would be natural. So, and so you get to the hearing and you can pull up the picture and say, okay, look at this picture on page 5 of Exhibit 1. Who's in this picture? And they can say, well, that's my mother-in-law, that's my brother-in-law, that's my niece, you know, whatever. And it gives some authenticity and genuineness to the relationship. I think the other thing is, again, sometimes I see they give me pictures like a whole stack, but, you know, out of them, you know, they're wearing the same clothes, like in half of them, and another set of clothes in the other half, and it looks like the pictures were taken on 2 days, as opposed to over a trip that might have been 3 weeks. So again, try to get pictures that are presumably, hopefully taken over a long, you know, throughout the trip that the person has made. Proof of financial support by the appellant, so that might be often Western Union transfers, but other ways. And proof of investigations on issues related to settlement. So, for example, let's say the applicant has children overseas. If the applicant has children overseas, then the applicant has children overseas, and they're coming with, as part of the application, maybe some investigation about how do they get children registered in school, job prospects for the applicant, English language training, like have them come in and say, look, I've looked at this, I've gone to this place, I've gone to that place, to try to find ways to get my spouse settled here in Canada. I think that, again, lends authenticity that they really want to spend the rest of their life in Canada together. And then sworn statements from individuals familiar with the relationship. You may want to call them as witnesses, but also sworn statements from individuals who are aware of the relationship. And the next, so that's spousal sponsorship appeals, and I'm going to...
Can we have this for 10 minutes break?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So everyone, we have 10 minutes break and this is